Welcome to The One Inside, an internal family systems podcast. I'm your host, Tammy Sollenberger. I'm excited that you and all of your parts have taken time to be with me and all of my parts. If you are a coach, a client, a therapist, if you are in business or education, and you're curious about the IFS model, you are in the right place. Now, let's see what happens on today's podcast. Hi everyone, today my guest is Natalia Rosenbaum. Natalia is an IFS therapist and a Kundalini yoga teacher. I think that's how you would say that. This podcast is exactly what I want all these podcasts to be, and I know that I'm not always in complete control of that, but it is fun and interesting. Your intellectual parts are going to love it. They're going to be stimulated. Your parts that want practical, like give me practical tips, they're going to be super happy. It's just everything that I want it to be. It's fun. It's like a conversation. We're chatting. We talk over each other. We both kept saying, yeah. I had to edit out so many yes. There's still a ton in there, but I think at one point I thought, okay, you're not talking to your girlfriend. You need to remember what you're doing because we were just having so much fun. So I hope you guys feel that energy and enjoy it and really take something away from it because I think you will. I also want to just say that if you are enjoying this podcast, then I would love it if you subscribe and if you give a review on iTunes. If you're on the socials, follow me on Instagram at IFS Tammy, go over to Facebook and join the One Inside Facebook community just to get more conversations going. I super love getting emails from you guys and getting comments on Instagram and Facebook. It just makes me feel all warm and I just really, really appreciate it. I appreciate the support and all the love. So I also want to just say today is January 31st, which is my son's 9th birthday. So maybe that's why I'm also saying I need some love and some hugs today because it's his 9th birthday. And we are in a little bit of a 2-month cycle right now. So this podcast was recorded in November. And so you'll kind of get the sense of that because we talk about the leaves falling off the trees and beginning of winter. And it's January 31st. So we're in the middle of it. And then 2-ish weeks ago, I recorded a podcast on parenting. It is so great, but I talk about my son being 9 and all the parts that are coming up about that. But that one won't be published probably until late February, early March. I'm trying to get a little bit of the head of the game so I'm not so behind. Anyways, I hope everyone's doing well. This is a really fun one. And the one more thing is there's a 1-minute meditation because we don't want to just talk about meditation, right? IFS is about experiencing. And so Natalia does a 1-minute meditation at the end. So you definitely want to stick around for that. Enjoy. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
It's good to see you. Now, where are you in the world? Tell me where
I'm
you are.
in Gloucester, Mass, and it's in the North Shore. I don't think we're very far from each other, but yeah, I'm in East Gloucester specifically, or kind of near Good Harbor Beach.
Yeah, so let's talk about the beach.
Yes.
How I know that you're very close to the beach.
Yes, half a mile.
Half a mile.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think that's pretty close. So if you look out a window, what do you see?
Well, yeah, I don't currently see the beach.
You don't see the beach, yeah.
I see a tree, and the leaves are kind of dwindling on the tree. It's like the tail end of the life of the leaves on the tree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the end. It's the end. Yeah, we did our leaves yesterday. And it's it's the end. The beginning of the end.
It is, yeah. And it's still pretty, but I mean, it's kind of a gray day, so it's fine. It's not windy, which is nice.
Yeah. I noticed that we did our leaves yesterday, like I said, and I actually thought I would like some wind because, once you do your leaves and then there's still leaves on the grass, and I'm like, why is there any leaves on the grass? So I was hoping for some wind to like knock them around a little bit.
Not come around. It'll happen though.
It will. It will. Well, it'll snow. It's going to snow this week like twice or something terrible.
Oh,
So,
really? I didn't
yeah,
even
I'm
know.
sorry. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Sorry to tell you that.
oh my
And
God.
I know, I know. And so, you and I met during your level one, and one of the
Yeah.
things I remember about you is I think, do you go to the beach every day to meditate?
Well, in the summer, I mean, I do actually around the corner from the beach. There's a place called the Back Shore, so there's like rocks, and it's more like less populated. So I go there. I have a place that I call my living room. it's it's like
Oh,
rocks, it's like a
mm,
rocky shore. And I call it my living room because like no one's there, I can be there and hang out. And so I do that a lot in the summer, but not now,
I know, I know. I love that because you call it your living room, so then it really does feel like your space.
Yes,
Oh, I love
yes.
that.
I know. And I've been filming some videos for my new YouTube channel that I'm starting. And I've been filming them in my living room.
Okay, well, tell me about that.
Yeah.
You have so many
Yeah.
cool things to talk about. Okay, let's talk
I
about your YouTube
know.
channel.
Okay, yes. Well, it's not out yet, but it will be. And it's called Aquarian Counseling. So that's basically like my brand. And I'm working on my brand right now. I was so busy writing my book that I didn't have time to like focus on like social media,
Yeah.
YouTube. And so my YouTube channel is really going to be videos of me teaching Kundalini yoga to clients and therapists and doctors and healers, anyone in the mental health and health profession. So there's going to be kind of a little bit of two strings of videos, some for just anybody, which includes the professionals, and also
Right.
some for professionals who are trying to help themselves like get through the day with clarity, and then they can help their clients and
Oh,
patients.
I
So all
love
of
it.
this is being worked on my new on my I'm working on my website right now. So it's currently there. If you find me, Aquarian Counseling is there, but the website in the next couple of weeks will have more on it, more videos, more things.
Great. And then what about your YouTube channel? When do you think that will go live?
Probably like I'm hoping the next couple weeks. Um yeah, I feel like it can't go live until the website is more what I want.
Right.
So I'm
Yeah.
thinking 2 weeks makes sense from now.
Well, and I,
Yes.
I have to say that this probably, I won't publish this. This is like we're like mid-November right now. So all that stuff will be live by the time this is published. So, because it might not
Perfect.
be, yeah, it might not be up for another month because I have two ahead of you to edit. And then, yeah, so by the
Yes.
time everyone's listening to this, like head over right now, like we'll finish the episode and then
Yep.
head over
Yep.
to Natalia's YouTube channel and website, Aquarian
Yes.
Counseling. Great. And make sure you
Aquarian
subscribe.
counseling.
Subscribe to the
Yes.
YouTube channel. Yes.
Thank you, Tammy. I
Yeah,
know when
no,
I
yeah.
like, I should have done it. You can't really go back and kick yourself for things that you should have done. But of course, there's a part of me that's like Natalia, like the manager part. Like, why did you not do this a long time ago? Because I started teaching Kundalini yoga to clients, 3-minute practices over 2 years ago when it changed my life so much. So I was thinking, why did I wait to create these videos for them? Because they
Mm,
currently practice every day, but they don't use, videos, or I don't, teach, there's not an ongoing relationship with me in that on virtually, because I really have clients do a lot of homework,
I love
and it's
that.
mostly doing some kind of meditation or breath practice that they do. So that's basically what it is that I do is I integrate talk therapy with Kundalini yoga, 3-minute practices to start, and concepts that are key concepts that basically, if we're going to use IFS language, it just helps get right into self energy very quickly. So that what I have personally found is that people who are doing the practices, the energy just like gets the self energy increases very quickly, and then they're able to hold space for the parts of them, and then we can actually go deep, and it's a very kind of quick process because they've been working on, you know, strengthening their nervous system, which helps them to be able to handle and not handle themselves so that they don't get overwhelmed by the parts of them that are dominating. And so there are some clients who we don't even do parts work because they're already so kind of like integrated with themselves that all they really needed was that connection with self energy, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
That's all they needed. And then they kind of just are able to navigate like, okay, this anxious part is like seriously intense. But the ability to handle it is like they're okay. Like they don't even need to get into it because that self energy is so dominant. But with other people, they can't even get themselves to do a practice, or they won't even get in a cold shower, which is a separate topic. I don't want to scare people, but we do cold showers.
No.
So
A 3-minute meditation, yes. Cold shower, no. All right,
I'm just
so
trying to create an interesting
yeah, and I'm like, what?
yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to just slow you down because I already have a bunch of questions. Tell me what Kundalini yoga is. Let's start with that.
Yes. Okay, great question. So Kundalini yoga is an ancient kind of yoga that is pretty much focusing on different aspects of human consciousness. So it's the yoga of awareness. So it's about making us more aware of ourselves, not just the physical body. So we think of yoga as a physical practice, and that's really just very watered down. Actually, yoga is much more of a mental and physical and energetic and spiritual practice. So with Kundalini yoga in particular, it's a little bit more of a niche kind of yoga, just because it's hard. It's harder. It's more intense. It asks of a lot, and it doesn't let you off the hook. So we integrate breath, mantra, and physical movement and meditation. And all of those things are designed to get the energy in a person up so that a new pattern is created. So it's really like doing a breath practice, and we might have our arms up, you know, above the head, 60-degree angle, and we've got this intense breath practice. And the reason it's so intense is because our mind is very intense. And so it has a way of just sort of kind of cutting through a lot of the thoughts so that the energy in a person, the true energy, the true life force of a person can dominate and not, you know, get overpowered by what we would call the parts of us. So on some level, that's, you know, I'll just stop right there. Does that make sense, or do you have any
Yes.
questions?
Yeah, that
Okay.
sounds really good. Well, what came to mind is about the nervous system, about rewiring the nervous system. That's what you said that earlier. And I thought, yeah, well, that makes more sense.
Yes, because the practices, what they do is they balance, like especially the breath practices, they balance out the nervous system so that because we're habitually in the sympathetic nervous system because we need the protectors are always up and ready to go. So because that's a reality for us, and we don't think that's not a bad thing. It's just that the problem with that is that it's not balanced because it's just too automatic. And so we need the parasympathetic nervous system to also be activated, and we need to manually do that. And so the practices help with the manual activation of the parasympathetic nervous system, so that if a person is like coming into a session and they're really on high alert and very much like dominated by a part of them that's about protecting them, and it's very hardwired, we can access a different part. We can access the self energy basically through strengthening the nervous system and through balancing it out.
Yeah, I love that. I love that because it's a different way of accessing self. And I've asked a lot of people this question because I think, yes, there is the traditional way of accessing self by peeling away parts. But I also know for myself, sometimes there's almost like a quicker, not that I'm trying to bypass parts, but almost like a quicker way. Like if I'm doing yoga or if I meditate or if I'm on my paddleboard or go for a walk in the woods, or even yesterday I was outside, it was like 30 degrees, but the sun was out. And I was like, probably within 10 minutes, I felt so much more self energy just from being in that atmosphere.
Yes, because you can access self energy very quickly in many different ways. So I do think that it's important to do it in many different ways. And there's going to be times where you're not able to do it. And that's when you
Right,
have to kind of dig a little deeper into parts. But the
right.
Kundalini yoga pretty much is the quickest way I have ever found. And I have a background with like a lot of Buddhism. When I was a teenager, I started to become a Buddhist. And then I found the Shambhala tradition, which is like, I don't know if you've heard of Pema Chodron, like a lot of these very popular, Shambhala is a very big organization. I got into that very quickly. And I kind of worked my way up that, I guess, spiritual ladder. I'm a very spiritually ambitious person. So, so I kind of did that. And then what happened is it wasn't alive for me anymore because it just felt
Mm,
habitual. So I ended up finding Kundalini yoga after a breakup.
mm,
And I had actually had heard of, I was just starting to get into IFS therapy. I just found an IFS therapist at that time. So around the time that I was starting my own IFS therapy, I found Kundalini yoga, which is really interesting.
that is
I just,
interesting.
it's an interesting thing.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
like there was this parallel thing that happened for you. Now,
Yes.
had you heard about IFS and were looking for an IFS therapist, or like how did that happen?
Yeah, well, my dad got the training. So my dad is also a therapist in private practice. And
Okay. Hi, Dad.
yeah, Marcos Rosenbaum. Yes, yeah,
Hi,
he's
Dad
good.
Mark.
Yeah, Marcos, yeah. So he actually we both have an office in Boston in the same suite,
Oh
in
my
the same
gosh, I
office.
love
So
that. Oh.
I know it's cute. Yeah, there's a lot of people there, not just us. But anyways, he had done like a lot of IFS trainings. I think he had done 3 levels. Um, and I had heard about it through him, and I had been in a different kind of therapy prior that was working a lot on inner child, but it was very vague inner child therapy.
Mm,
And I didn't think it was really helping me in the way that I needed it to help me. And then I found that like I'd heard about working with parts, and I started with this IFS therapist, and that was more helpful to me. So it was
mm,
obvious that that was like, oh, that was like the upgraded version of the therapy that I had been doing before. So obviously, I wanted to learn how to teach it to clients or to work with clients in that level. At the same time, though, I found the Kundalini yoga path, and I started to work through the teacher training. So it was I started teacher training, then I did IFS training.
I love
So
that. Okay, so you started teacher training with Kundalini yoga and then you did your level 1 training. So this was
yes,
all, oh my gosh, okay.
happening at the same time pretty much. When I was
Wow.
in level one
Wow.
with you, I was also doing the teacher training for Kundalini, which is also very intense. So it was the timing of that was weird, and I didn't want to back down on any of it. Um, and it's interesting how that all affected me. In I guess the year 2018 was mostly the year that was happening. So I see myself as I integrate things, in my private practice.
Yeah. Well, can you tell us how it affected you?
Yeah, like personally.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, personally, I feel that the Kundalini training was very like dominant and overpowering, just in a good way, in that my internal, I'm going to use this phrase, internal energy system. So I activated my internal energy system. This is something that I've created, that language, because the Kundalini yoga just activates the energy that's already inside. So I was so kind of like, especially with teacher training, I was so like, and when you first start doing Kundalini yoga, you kind of get it's a little bit like a honeymoon situation because the energy is so new and different, and it's kind of like breaking a glass ceiling, that I felt really like very elevated from that. And now I'm kind of like just an ordinary person in a way. Like I struggle to do my practice, in the morning, but I do it.
Yeah.
And so with IFS, it was interesting because I would come into like IFS training really kind of high elevation wise, sort of energy. And then IFS was deep, very intense, very deep. And so I had a little resistance, to be honest, to going there because I was in such a different place. But it also helped me to learn and integrate and understand what is going on in my
Mm,
system. You know
mm,
what I mean? So
yeah.
I was like, it almost was a situation where I was looking at the past and being like, wow, like I like really what I came from and understanding myself from just the ground up, like where I had come from, where I have been, because I've had a traumatic childhood. And so I was able to like hold space for myself in a way that was really strong. Like the nervous system was strong. I was able
Mm,
to kind of just be like, oh my gosh, like I understand everything of why I am the way I am. You know what I mean? And I
yeah.
and I wasn't overwhelmed by it. So
Mm,
anytime I would do like IFS work, I feel like I was able to go deeper actually. And
yeah.
some ancestral stuff was coming up. Like
Wow.
and past life stuff. And I'm thinking about in my therapy with my therapist.
Yeah.
So like the ancestral, like the kind of past life stuff that was coming up, it wasn't a lot, it was just like a little bit, but it's a little heavy. So I
Yeah.
don't know that I would have had the ability if I wasn't doing Kundalini and IFS side by side. I don't know that
Right.
I would have just been able to go into those therapy sessions and be like, okay, like here it is.
Yeah.
And now I'm not really currently in therapy at this moment. I kind of like go in and out,
Yeah.
but of course, relationship stuff is my trigger. So like I could, of course, like if there's a relationship, that like is my main learning and trigger in life. So, but otherwise I'm just kind of going about things and I don't, I'm not currently working parts in my life at this moment.
Right. So
Yeah.
relationships end up being trailheads for you.
Absolutely. Big time. So they get me into crisis mode
Oh,
and then
yeah.
I level up though. I level up with it. Because
Mm,
my early relationship was completely with my mother was completely severed at a
mm,
very young age. So I'm triggered by intimacy and relationships. So then when I get into them, that's when I have the chance to really look at everything. And I'm not currently in a relationship right now and I'm in work mode and that's easier for me. It's like
yeah.
my comfort zone,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I can do that and I don't get, I
Yeah.
don't have a lot coming up. So just I'm being totally transparent.
I love it. Yeah. So do you want to just check in and see how this is feeling? Like I'm loving it, but I just want to check in and see how is this feeling for your system?
Yeah. It's good. I feel so comfortable with you. So
Oh, good. Good. Oh, that
it's like
makes
I
me
forgot I'm
happy.
live. Well, not we're
I
not
know.
live, but like I am gonna be, I'm okay because I don't have anything to hide. And I actually feel like people these days are very attracted to just transparency and vulnerability. And it's part of like how consciousness is evolving.
Yeah.
We need to learn through each other's like vulnerable stories.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I'm okay to kind of like put myself on the line in that way. And I do it with clients, not, intensely, but
Right.
I do it. If a client has gone through like a betrayal, like someone cheating on them, which is the thing that triggered me to Kundalini, really, that was like the crisis. I will tell them I've been cheated on too. Like I know what this is
Mm,
like, and I
yeah.
and I I sense the need. Like they're dying for that. Like they
Yeah.
needed that, and so I'm happy to do it. I feel like it's a way that I give. You know,
Mm,
yeah, is just to
yeah.
be transparent.
I love it. I almost feel like when we do that, when we like appropriately self-disclose, I think in IFS language, I think that probably drops down, like softens their protectors. And what it does for me, let me use it in my language. Like I know when you self-disclose, it softens my protectors that feel like I have to be a certain way or I have to be something. It sort of softens them, and then that allows for more self-energy, which means more connection. So then I feel more connected with you.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It's so like, I know because it's all about the connection, because I think
Yeah.
that that's what's
Yeah.
healing for us.
Yes, definitely.
So as humans, like, we connect and we need to have some kind of hook in, because I think therapists,
Yeah.
this is the thing with therapists, and I love IFS because this doesn't really, this IFS, I feel, is really pro like vulnerability,
Yeah.
actually, for therapists. And because the therapy community, I mean, like, we even just the setup of it, someone comes in and like, I'm a therapist, and I don't know, I don't always feel comfortable with that. Like,
Mm.
I do want to be the person, like, it has to be some kind of like, I'm giving something, they're coming to receive something and I'm giving something.
Mm.
And but if something that I'm giving is my own vulnerability, I feel like that levels out the playing field better, because
Mm.
I'm a normal person.
Yeah.
you know
Yeah. I'm not just giving my intellect, or I'm not just giving, yeah, because that's just then head to head. So then sort of self begets self, and then parts beget self. So like you come in as a client in, you know, in your head usually, right? And then like if I'm just going to give you my intellect, that's, I mean, there's something to be said for that, but it's not, I don't think it's healing. I think that's why we're
no.
drawn to IFS, because it's a different type of healing.
Yeah, it's like a different angle. And
Yeah,
that's what
yeah.
I think heals, is different angles. That's why, like, I like working, I do IFS, I do Kundalini, and there's different angles. Like, there are some clients that they're just never gonna get. I mean, many people now come to me because, they see that, like, I have a spiritual, quote unquote, approach, which people don't even know what that actually means.
Right,
But
right.
if you're curious, I can talk about that. But like, they come to me because they know that I'm doing some kind of like Kundalini yoga breath practice is something, and they also know that I do IFS. So it's sort of like, not everyone is going to do everything. So I have to go with different angles, and I have to intuitively feel into what that person needs, actually.
Yeah. Well, tell me about your spiritual approach. Tell me what that means. It's so funny you said, because
Yeah.
I made an assumption there, and then when you said I could tell you more about that, I thought, oh yeah, because I just made an assumption. So tell me what that
I
means.
know, because people use the word spiritual all the time, and it's like, actually, do we even know what that means? I mean, and it's okay not to know what it means. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because
Yeah.
sometimes people are like turned off by that, because they're like, well, I'm not a spiritual person, I don't know, and it's not like we're talking about God or anything like that. It's really, at least from the Kundalini perspective, and then any perspective, a spiritual practice is any practice that helps you elevate above your patterns, so like, it helps, it's any practice, like IFS is a spiritual practice, anything that helps you separate from the
Mm.
dominant kind of
Mm.
overpowering, overshadowing forces of like negativity in ourselves. So like, if I try to do something in my business and I fail, the ultimate approach that we could call a spiritual approach is to just basically be like, you know what, at least I tried, and I'm going to keep going. Like, I may feel hurt right now, but I'm not going to let that stop me, and I'm going to keep going. And
Right.
because I believe in myself, and I don't believe in that failure is my identity,
Mm.
so it's the
Mm.
ability to rise above, like resurrection,
Oh
is
yeah,
a really
yeah,
good word, I
yeah,
think.
yeah.
Rising above the perceived limitation, like
Mm.
the overpowering familial like burdens that will tell us that, yeah, we weren't supposed to try anyways, because in our family, like, we all fail, or whatever it
Right.
is.
That makes a ton of sense, right? So it's like those belief systems or parts that hold beliefs or burdens from our family of origin that we still believe about ourselves or about the world or how we exist in the world. And like, of course, that even calling it a failure, like, what does that mean? Like, I could be like, oh, I have so many listeners to this podcast, but it's not thousands and thousands, so I'm already a failure. Like, so even calling it a failure is a part, right? A part that says, oh, that was a failure.
Yes.
And then those burdens that like, well, of course I failed because I'm never really good at anything and I shouldn't really try. And I should just, sit back and let people that know more do it or whatever, whatever that sort of messaging would be.
or play it safe,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
staying
yeah.
small. And I think that really
Yes,
ultimately at
yes.
the end of the day, the spiritual path is about expansion. And
Yes, yes,
because
yes.
expansion is so important for who we are, because that's what we all want deeply. But we're afraid. We are, because the parts are afraid, and it's so real. And so being able to hold both
Mhm.
the fear of expansion and the, desire to expand. And what happens, what I've noticed is
Yes.
every time I expand, I also contract, you know,
Oh, tell me about that.
yeah. Oh
Mm.
my God. It's so powerful. And I can sense you like totally
I'm having some
connecting. You're
feelings.
totally
Yeah, I'm having some
connecting.
feelings.
I feel it. I feel it, Tammy. I love you. I know. I like so glad we're connecting. Yeah, it's so important to talk about this because I don't feel like people talk about it enough. And
Mhm.
like even like on the spiritual path, someone could think of me as even like friends. Like I feel that they put on me like I'm so like I'm okay with expand, like I'm going forward and I'm doing this and that, and they don't realize like what I'm going through,
Right, right.
deep down. Like, so like let me give an example. I have gone to like a training with my teachers, like my Kundalini teachers, and let's say it's like a week long. We have women's training, and we have like women's training camp, or we have teacher training, different things. Let's say I've been there for 5 days, 6 days. A lot of expansion is happening. I'm in a group energy. The energy is very high, vibrating high. We're doing a lot of practices. We're basically cleaning out our mind. It's very intense. When I come home, it's like already I can feel the contraction. It's like I feel um like, first of all, then I start resenting the practice. I'm like, this practice, like this is a lot. I have to do this every day. Like, and it is legit. I do have to do it every day because you have to clean out the mind every day. You gotta work on stuff every day.
Mhm.
So I start resenting the practice. I start feeling like I just don't want to do a lot, and or I just doubt what I'm doing. And all of that is because I've gone out beyond my comfort zone. And then the natural response is to just like be afraid of doing that and be afraid of the glass ceiling expanding
Mm,
because that's unknown territory.
mhm.
And then the contraction happens. But the contraction doesn't ever, I think if anyone's working on themselves, you never go back to where you originally were. So it's like a rubber
Right,
band. It doesn't actually go back to the original starting place.
right. It's interesting that I feel that way after IFS. Like my level one training was the year long. Like I did the week. Is what you did? Like the year
Yeah.
long, like weekends, and I would travel like 2 hours to do it. And I remember every weekend coming back and feeling that contraction and feeling scared. There was a part that ended up on Sundays being scared, like scared to
Yeah.
come back into my life because, and I don't know that I had that languaging, but that's exactly what would happen. There would be this expansiveness, and I did so much work during my level one, like stuff I've never dealt with before. I just did so much work and yeah, and then I'd come back into my life and I'd feel afraid. And so, but that also happened a little bit with being a program assistant for a
Mm.
year and other things I've done, the conference and all this, all the IFS stuff that I still feel that way. If a part of me feels scared to come back into my life, because when I'm away, I'm better about practices. I'm better about meditation and going for walks and yoga. And then I come back into my life and there's I have a really tough manager that takes on a zillion things. And when she's running the show, whew, it's
It
tough.
overpowers. So
Yeah.
then it's
Yeah.
harder for, it's more comfortable. Probably that manager, it's like so comfortable being in that role. And then other
Yeah.
parts don't get to have a space. And I mean, the
Yeah.
fear of being also alone after a big group experience like
Oh,
that, because you're with people that are like speaking your language, and together collectively everyone is expanding and growing. And I feel that most of it with IFS and with Kundalini, it's all about the group energy.
yeah.
So literally, that is what it is. I honestly feel that the magic that happens in these situations is because the group is together and the transformation that's taking place.
Yeah.
And then to come back from that is really challenging. I think we have to be really kind to ourselves during those kind of transitions. It's a time of like,
Yeah.
you want ice cream? Like, let's have ice cream, like,
Yeah, yeah. Of course, parts of me do go to food. I was thinking that. Yeah, I remember coming back from Boston one time, and I like stopped at Sonic. And I was like, "Ooh, what are you
oh,
doing?"
Sonic.
And got like some sort of like yummy peanut butter ice cream thing, and was like, And it's almost like there's another part of me is like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I don't know, but I need to have this peanut butter,
But
whatever that
that's
thing
very
is."
wise because actually we talk about that a lot that you kind of need to come back to an ordinariness
Hmm.
because that helps with the transition. And that's why I said like the ice cream because it's like let's say you're in an IFS weekend, it's kind of like, it's like a twilight zone of some sorts. You enter in and it's like it's a group energy. It's like it's an interesting portal, and then
Hmm.
when you get out of there, you kind of need to kind of integrate by normalcy, just a little
Yeah.
bit of like normal life. Like I'm eating some random food. I'm like maybe like watching, Sex in the City. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
something,
I love
something.
that. Right, and I love that that's like, okay, so then there's a critic that comes in and is like says to me, "Well, wait, you were this type of person here," and then yes, so the critic starts
Yeah.
coming up instead of being like, "Okay, it makes sense to expand and then contract and sort of this is your nervous system's way of coming back to normal." And
Yes.
yeah, that part of being kind is that, how am I going to deal with a critic?
Yeah,
You
because
know
the
what I
critic
mean?
is like, yeah, because the critic is like really, I mean, is super like in the way of just the actual normal process of the expansion and contraction.
Yeah.
And actually the critic is part of the contraction.
Yeah,
you
right.
know
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
yeah, the critic is actually because the expansion is a new height, and then the automatic thing is the contraction, which is just the habitual and staying small. The critic might be contributing to staying small. It's too scary to expand. So we got to
Yeah.
stay small, you know?
I had such a big reaction to that, the staying small. And I think it's because I'm short. This is gonna sound silly. I'm short. You're short too, right? We're
Yeah.
both pretty short. And
Yeah.
I think there's something about playing small. Like, and I'm often like, people cut me off in lines all the time, and I think they just don't see me. I'm like, I'm not that short. I mean, but it is a thing that happens to me all the time,
Oh,
where like I'm
interesting.
standing in line and people cut me off. And so I was actually in I do network chiropractor. Like, I go to a network chiropractor, and I was like standing in line, kind of. I was sitting down. I wasn't standing in line, but I was in line and I was sitting on this like bench. But I was next in line, and this woman came in, and of course she doesn't know that I'm in line, but she goes up to the counter, and I'm waiting for a table, and I thought, I actually felt myself contracting. I felt myself getting small, and I heard, she's going to go in front of me, and that's going to make me late, but that's okay. Like, I knew I wasn't going to say anything, and I almost started crying. And then I heard this part say, like, just go back to your office. Like, you're not going to, the timing of this isn't going to work out. Like, just go back to your office. And all this was happening inside of me when the receptionist said, "Oh, Tammy, you're next." And I was like,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
it was unbelievable. I was like, "Oh," and I feel like I floated up to the desk, and she's like, "Yep, there's a table for you." I it was a that part of me is like, this is a really stupid example, but it was really powerful because I
Yeah.
often that's that difference between feeling small and then actually feeling like seen, and it was like, wow.
Right. The contrast,
Yes,
like the
yes, it was
contrast.
huge.
Yeah. Yeah. But then we have to do that for ourselves, like during those times, because when we see ourselves contracting, it's like we kind of have to just hold on to those parts, like hold their hand and be like, you know what? I got you. Like,
Yeah,
it's okay. Like,
yeah.
it's okay. I'm gonna take care of you, and it's all right. Like, you don't have to be afraid.
Mm,
The fear. I think the scared parts are very strong in that, and fear of failure, and like fear of being seen. That's the biggest one, I think. for many people, actually, this fear of being seen. Even like in your story, it's almost like you just surrendered to like not wanting to be seen.
I know it's interesting because, yeah, I don't know that there was any self, right? There was no, it was like I completely abandoned those parts. They were scared. And it was like the only answer is to go back to my office and cry.
And hide.
Yeah. And hide, right? I wouldn't have been seen at
Yeah.
all. I wouldn't have
Yeah.
been seen at all. Yeah.
Yeah, because we don't really want to be seen, I think, at times. And so
Mm,
that's a big reason, like people that are trying to do stuff like the podcast, you know what I mean? Like I'm gonna, yeah, like these days also with media and social media, it's like it's all about numbers, and so we
yeah.
we have a really interesting thing to work with. Anyone who's trying to do something in the world is putting themselves out there on some kind of technology platform,
Yeah.
and those inner dynamics that are going on with the parts around that, like hitting the publish button or like whatever it is
Yeah.
really heavy,
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
us. And even just like with me, the process of deciding to write a book, the book is not out yet. Yeah, I should just say really quick, I am going to try to get it published. And so right now an editor has it, and she's going to help me find an appropriate publisher. You'll
Great.
just have to follow me to know.
Yeah,
But the
that's
book is
great.
basically a guidebook for therapists on the book is written primarily for therapists, how to take care of themselves through 3-minute practices, how to like clear their energy so that they have more, energy for the day, for the caseload and for the clients, and then teach clients, a 3-minute practice or something like that, like a meditation.
I love
Yeah,
that.
and they're all Kundalini, so they're very
Okay.
effective, extremely miraculous, the things that have happened with my clients.
I love
It's
it.
crazy. Yeah.
Okay, so the book is a blend of Kundalini and IFS, and it
Not
also not
IFS.
IFS. Okay,
Nope.
it's nope. Okay, and then
Yes.
is it like a little bit of teaching and then a bunch of practice
Yes.
exercises? Okay,
Yes. So there's 11 practices. It's
okay,
it's basically a foundation, an intro guide of how, like, what does Kundalini do for us? What does it do for the nervous system? How does it balance the glandular system, the pituitary gland? And what is it that I do? Aquarian counseling. Like, what is Aquarian counseling? What does that even mean? Right. So
yeah.
Aquarian, the
Tell me,
reason, what
yeah.
is that word? It's not because I'm an Aquarius. No, it's not that. But in basically, we are in the age of Aquarius according to like some spiritual teachings. It's the new age. That's why people are more expansive and conscious, and people are more
Oh,
sensitive. And so it's the age rather than the
interesting.
age of knowledge being power, like in the age of Pisces, which was the previous age, which shifted, around the late 90s. And it actually officially shifted in 2012. That it's less about I go to like the priest or whatever, and the priest gives me, the knowledge, and the priest is a man, and so the patriarchy being dominating, that's all shifting.
Yeah,
We see that in front of our own eyes.
yeah.
But specifically, how it relates to therapy, and IFS is very Aquarian. So like I'm going to say that, and I'm going to explain what is Aquarian. So, but IFS is naturally very Aquarian, and it's the only kind of therapy modality I have found besides Aquarian counseling that's Aquarian. And basically what it is shifting the approach from there's someone outside of me that has the answer to I have the answer, and I'm my own healer. Because, in IFS, we're just guiding someone into their own healing. That is the
Yeah,
process of IFS,
right.
and so with Aquarian counseling, that's why the only other therapy modality I use is IFS, besides my model, which is I've created Aquarian counseling. So that's why it's like, literally, I'm not going to use any other kind of therapy besides IFS. So IFS is appropriate for me, but in the book, it's too complicated to talk about IFS. So I had to keep it very
Okay.
simple,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
the idea is that through the Kundalini practices, a person gets to a place of connecting with themselves. And then from there, they can work on like a lot more self-healing. And it's
Mhm.
not that I have the answer. I am just teaching them what we call a yogic technology, and then that's helping them to balance their nervous system. And then they can, if they want to go deeper. Now some clients don't want to go deeper, so So then they can go work on some parts, and that's always being talked about. Even with clients who don't want to do parts work, I'm always talking about parts. It's like part of the language. You know what I'm talking
I
about. There are some
totally do.
people,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah. They can't.
there's
Yeah.
some, they can't, they do it,
Yeah. They just get so
and
irritated. They're like, stop using that. Yeah.
yeah, but everyone can relate to, like, I have a part of me that's angry, and like
Sure.
that
Yeah.
part of me dominates when I'm in traffic. You know what I mean? Like anyone can talk about that. So then I would give, if someone comes to me for, let's say, that issue, I would give them, there's a practice called fists of anger, and then they at home work on connecting to their anger and their angry part. And in a 3-minute concentrated segment, they do that daily at home to release that, work with that. And then in that practice, we actually did it at IFS training when I think I was asked to come up on, and then, through that practice, you bring up the anger and then you clear it out with like white light, so we learn how to work the polarity of, I bring on the intense emotion and then I bring on self energy. So like in that particular practice, for example, there's other practices, there's breath, there's different ones. That's a very specific one. But so the book talks about practices, like actually has practices like that in it, and talks about when we would use it, who it's helpful for. So it's kind of like I give like yogic prescription.
Great. Okay. And then are you in the practices, which we're going to do, I
Yeah,
think. Yes.
we'll do a very quick meditation with a mantra. We don't really have, I think it's too complicated, like just with audio to
Okay.
do certain things. So no, I have something in mind that's
Perfect.
going to be a good starter. Yeah.
Perfect. So okay, so that's good with the audio. Okay, so that's what was coming to my mind was it's not just a meditation. Are you also having them in the like 11 practices? Are you also having them do movement with, like, say, with the anger? So you bring up
Yes.
the angry part. So I guess let me ask it this way. Can you talk through what that means and like what you
That
would have them do, the
So
angry
like that
one?
particular, so like that
Yeah.
particular practice. So like Kundalini is very physical. So this is why like my YouTube videos are going to be great, because it's nice to, watch what I'm doing. So there's a
Yeah.
combination, like that one, there's a combination of breath and movement. So the idea and visualization with the fists of anger practice. We can call it meditation for anger if we want. It's easier. So like there's a breath and it's like, so you're like cheeks, you've got an O-shaped mouth, you're breathing in and out through an O-shaped mouth. So number one, that's expanding the diaphragm and helping like basically the diaphragm to move. So this is like all helping with like the vagus nerve, like there's all this stuff, all this like research and technology about how these breath practices and like how the nervous system is affected through breath. So there's like, this is going on. Then you got your fists. Then we work mudras in Kundalini. So mudras are hand positions. So then like in this particular practice, we've got the thumb going over to the pinky mound, and then we make a fist, and we've got the arms clearing over the head, so that because it's creating a new pattern. So anything that we do that's very different from what we've ever done starts to set a new pattern in place, which starts to activate the conscious mind, aka self energy. Really, I'm just going to say that because that's my experience. And so in that particular practice, the eyes are closed. Everything is very specific. We even close the eyes and focus up at the space in between the eyebrows, because that's the pituitary gland. So in Kundalini, this is why we call it a technology, is because we don't make anything up. I never am like deciding, oh, well, they should look, they should have their eyes closed and just close. No, we always follow the system because it's part of a lineage and it's ancient, thousands of years old. So, they knew thousands of years ago that this would be appropriate for us now. And actually, this is the most current time for this kind of yoga. That's why other yoga is just physical. It's very popular, but actually I think in the future Kundalini will be more and more popular because people need it, because it's very all encompassing. So with that fist of anger, where I'm just trying to answer the question, then we
Right.
bring up the anger as we're going. I wish you had the video on the
I
podcast,
know.
but we
Yeah. So
don't.
she's like moving her arms back and forth.
Have to go to the YouTube channel website, right? Or my Instagram, because I'm going to be like also doing some practices on Instagram. So you're doing that, and during this 3 minutes, it's never longer than 3 minutes in this particular practice. The whole time anger, you're allowing the angry part just to have its voice. So it could look like images of things that have happened. Like I do this practice every morning. So like this morning I'm doing it, you know, and I'm like, yeah, I felt sometimes it's weirdness. Sometimes it's not always anger. Sometimes I can't connect, you know, to, you can't, you know, because you're on the spot being asked to do it. You're asking
Right.
yourself to do it. And so you're like, this is the self-healing technology. So I'm doing, you know, and I might have anger. Like I got angry at something that someone said to me, but then that kind of comes and goes. And then I might be like nervous about something. So then it's a little bit of like a nervous part coming in, you know, and, but all with the idea to bring it up intentionally, consciously, and clear it out. Because the end, we take a deep inhale 3 times. Imagine white light coming up through the body and filling our aura, which is the space around the body. And then, you know, I say to myself, you know, I'm not angry anymore. Because what it is it's basically just saying, look, like, it's okay to be angry and it's okay to feel whatever you want to feel. And then you don't want to live there and you want to have a good day. So then it's basically also saying, I command myself to actually be bright because I
Mm,
can be bright. I can. And
mm,
that's my birthright to be bright.
yeah.
And that's the
Yeah.
self energy because it's there, even if I'm aware of it or not, it's there. So
Yeah.
it's basically commanding me to connect to that. So at the end of that particular fist of anger, we, you know, do that. And it's very powerful.
Oh,
So that's just one example of a practice in the book. There's other, like that's an excellent one for grief, you know,
oh,
and
yeah.
heartbreak.
Mm,
Excellent for grief and heartbreak. But it's, you know, then there's other ones that are just like more general, like someone could do it anytime. There's a lot, there's the breath of fire, very good for anxiety and panic attacks. Like I've helped so many
mm,
people with panic attacks and even just depression and like people who hate themselves, you know, like
mm.
there's so many of those people that come to therapy.
And I was thinking that with this idea that you can bring up a part, like I can bring up a part that is my panic attack part, or I could bring up my anxious part, or the part that hates me, or the angry part, and that idea that other parts, I'm thinking of like my anger about, you know, I'm a girl, nice girls aren't angry, blah 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 blah.
Mm.
So I was thinking, but I would have permission, I think, from those protectors that say you're not allowed to be angry. Be like, oh, well, I'm just going to bring it up for 3 minutes, and then the white light, and I'm going to do self energy. And so almost they say, oh, okay, well, you can do that for 3. Well, I'll let you do that. It almost feels like
Yes.
that, right? They'll say, okay, well, I'll let you do that. And then I can talk to those parts that, you know, the part that doesn't allow me to say, excuse me, I was next. Right.
Yes.
I'm not allowed to say, excuse me, I was next. Oh, excuse
Right.
me, we were standing in line here.
That part can be like, you know what? Like, I'm pissed off. You know, that
Yeah.
part could even be like, I'm pissed off that you haven't even allowed me to, you are not even paying attention to me. You
Yeah.
know, so
Yeah.
it's a space to actually have those parts even be angry at you for a moment.
Oh,
You know, like when
yeah.
I went
Yeah.
through my breakup, when I first found Kundalini yoga and I encountered like this particular practice, I was for like months, I was going through fists of anger for 3 minutes, being angry at myself because I got into that relationship, and I gave that part a voice.
Right.
But then it was intentional for 3 minutes. I got to release that. I got to go through that, and that part got a voice. And then I was like, you know what? We're clearing it because actually
Mm.
self energy is always there. So
Mm.
it's not
Mhm.
bypassing anything. It's actually commanding self energy to be present is the idea of what this Kundalini yogic technology is. It's commanding it because it's there.
Yeah.
So we have to somehow connect quickly. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And I love that because it's like, from my parts, it feels like it's not there. And I know one of my first experiences with IFS is I heard a little voice say, you're finally here. And it was like, oh, it was like
Yes.
heartbreaking. Like, you're finally
Yeah.
here.
Wow. Yeah, because it's been waiting. I mean,
Yeah.
because it's always there, because there's always that polarity, just like the expansion and contraction, because that's the metaphor for everything. I mean, it really,
Mm,
the polarity is always, so it's okay. So something that I'll just go back into, like when I didn't want to write my book, the book, I don't like to write. I'm not a writer, but yet because I started with these Kundalini practices immediately right after I learned them, and working with clients, and the transformation that I saw, I couldn't not share it, and it came from a higher place in me that I decided to, consider it. And I have my Kundalini teacher. I had a conversation with him about writing the book, and I was like, I don't really know if I can do it. Maybe I'll start with a blog. And he was like, nope, you're not going to start with a blog. You're going to write a book. And because he knew that I needed that kind of encouragement. And I said, yeah, but I'm really overwhelmed. And he said, you know what he said? This is a classic kind of like spiritual teacher, Kundalini, like yoga teacher kind. And it's not a guru, don't worry. He literally said, it's okay to be overwhelmed. And it was like, it gave my parts the permission to be overwhelmed. And yet I was still going to go forward with the book. So literally how I wrote the book, Tammy, it was like, it's okay to be overwhelmed, but yet here we are.
Yeah. Yes. I love that. Right. Because it's a part of me that says I'm overwhelmed. Okay. Well, then I have to do something about it. Well, you have to stop being overwhelmed, or you have to eat something, or you have to go to sleep, or you have to, you know what I mean? It's like, it's okay to be overwhelmed. So I'm going to do it. My thing, I tell that, we tell that to people that are scared, or do it scared, do it anxious. You know what I mean? So it's like, I can't wait until I'm not overwhelmed, or I can't wait until I'm not anxious to like do a thing.
No, you can't. And so it's basically saying to the overwhelm, like, you know what, you're welcome here. It's fine.
Yes.
But I'm not like gonna I don't really have time to pay so much attention because I have to write this book, but like you can be here.
Well, and I can hold your hand.
Yes.
Okay, so you're overwhelmed and you're probably little, and so I'm gonna hold your
Right.
hand. Yeah.
I'm gonna hold your hand and you can be here while I'm doing this, but
If you
like
want to be.
I'm big enough to hold you. I don't,
right.
and so, and because I have some methods to help do that. But if someone doesn't have methods, then it's overwhelm will immediately take over, and we know what that does.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Yeah. So true. But I have a question about the 3 minutes. Is there something specific about the reason why it has to be 3 minutes?
Because some of the practices have a limit of 3 minutes, like the anger one, but some of them can be done longer than 3 minutes, but it's easy to hook someone into doing something every day for 3 minutes. So the change happens when clients do practices and when we do practices every day. So it's easier to hook them because Kundalini yoga is so effective. It actually is effective in 3 minutes. So if we did a practice called Breath of Fire, clients who are so overwhelmed by their job, for example, like I have a client who's so overwhelmed by her job, she came to me because of that. All I had her do was 3 minutes of this Breath of Fire practice. And now nothing has changed at her job, but she's no longer overwhelmed by it. And I kid you not. So that's an example. Okay. So it's effective in 3 minutes, but it can be done longer. Okay. So that's that. The, thing that I would do, the question of what would you do if you weren't a therapist? Is that the question?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would teach Kundalini yoga, but I'm already doing that, right? So
so that's not an answer. So if you weren't doing any of those things and money, time, nothing mattered, what would you do?
I don't think it would be possible for me not to teach something like that, but I would travel. I would just say that I would travel. I would travel the world, Yeah, I would literally be traveling the world. That's what I would be doing, and making people happy and smile,
Oh, yeah. I love that. I love that. Yeah. Is there a special place that you would like to go? Like, where's the first place you could go?
Well, Thailand is coming to mind at this moment because I am thinking about going to Thailand in February, but so it kind of is like this place I've never been. I kind of think of,
I love that.
Yeah, those kind of places like go to Australia, very far away.
Far away. Yeah, I get that.
Far away.
In the winter.
In the winter. That's exactly right. I'm thinking turquoise water, beach vibes,
Yes. Yeah, I love that. I think that sounds really awesome. And I love that you're thinking of doing that and that's already happening in your life in some way.
Yeah, I mean, and just, it's funny, it's almost hard for me to imagine like not teaching Kundalini yoga because I actually feel that at the basis of who I am, that's sort of my destiny, and I actually want to say I do have a class, like a weekly class in Boston, and it's in North End yoga at 6:00 on Thursdays. It's a very good yoga studio, but you can experience an actual Kundalini class there.
That sounds great. And so would listeners, if you're in the Boston area, would you just go to North End Yoga, the website and sign up for it? Yeah.
Yeah, you can sign up for the class. And anyone can actually just contact me directly.
And how would you like
So
them to do that? Yeah, what's the best way for them to
they
contact
can
you?
they can text me literally. Is that too much to give my phone number? No, they can email me. They can email me. Okay. Natalia at aquariancounseling.com.
I think that's a good idea. I don't
Yes.
know that you want to give out your
Yeah, yeah,
number.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
no, I know.
I'm going to protect
Natalia
you
at,
there.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Natalia at aquariancounseling.com. So if anyone has any
Perfect.
questions about anything that I've talked about, feel free to reach out. Yeah.
Awesome. And then,
Yeah.
yeah, so email and then your website, aquariancounseling.com.
Yep.
Yep. And then
Yes,
your
my website,
YouTube
Aquarian Counseling.
channel will
My
be
YouTube channel
Aquarian.
also Aquarian Counseling, and I'm starting to like think about Instagram being, I really want to. I think that the younger generation of people are really interested in a lot of these types of things. So
Yeah. Oh,
Instagram,
they want it. They
oh, they
really
need it.
want it. Yeah.
They're so into it.
What are you on who are you on Instagram? Are you on
So I'm
Instagram yet?
Aquarian Counseling.
Okay.
Yeah,
We're
and I
not
have an Aquarian Counseling Facebook page that I just started. So you
great.
can like Aquarian Counseling on Facebook if you're a Facebook person.
Awesome. 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 Okay. And I'm gonna have to follow you on Instagram. I don't think we're
Yes.
following each other.
No,
That's
I don't think
so
so.
weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah, totally. Okay, this is great. So how about you end us in a meditation if that
Yes.
feels good?
We could do the meditation for like, I don't know, it could even just be as short as a minute. I want to just talk about, we're really just going to say a mantra with the breath. So on the inhale, well, I want to talk about it first and then I'll just help you with your posture. But we're going to say the mantra Sat Nam. And the reason why a mantra is important, and it's going to be a mental vibration of the mantra. When we say a mantra, it basically takes our mind to a positive direction. So it actually helps to, it's the vehicle to self energy. So it's the way to kind of call on self energy immediately is through this mantra, Sat Nam. So we have a lot of mantras in Kundalini. We have a lot of different mantras. There's a lot of mantras out there, and there are also affirmations out there. But something as simple as Sat Nam is more effective because it's SATNAM, and you can write that down. And the thing about it, and the reason why I actually think Kundalini mantras are more effective. I've done Tibetan mantras. I've done, other kind of yoga mantras. Is they're very appropriate for these times that we're living in. We're living in a very pressurized time on the planet. The technology is very intense. We need very quick, very effective methods. And so when you say a mantra mentally, you start to control where your thoughts are going. And you guys who are really into IFS might not like that because then the parts might feel like they're being bypassed, but I say no, that's not what it is. What it is that you're actually calling on self energy. So you can, if someone if someone comes in with a lot of insomnia, I immediately tell them to inhale Sat, exhale Nam before they go to sleep, because they've got to get into that space fast. They don't have time. We don't have, we don't always have time, to change. We say that we have 9 seconds before we react, so to something in a habitual way. So calling upon self energy immediately is very appropriate and needed. And so the mantra is just a vehicle for that. And it's a vehicle to activate the self energy, or you could say activate the conscious mind. So if the conscious mind is creating, a new pattern quickly, that's the neighborhood we want to go into. We don't necessarily want to stay stuck in the old, in the neighborhood that we're used to. So we can just sit. Now, if you can just sit, if you're sitting in a chair, just have both feet planted, hip width distance on the floor. You can have your hands on your lap and bring your thumb and your index finger to touch at the tips. We call that Gyan Mudra. It's just a nice flow of energy. Close your eyes and just bring your spine to a very straight and upright position, but relaxed. And your chin is just tucked in a little. Just make sure your chin isn't sticking up. Your eyes are closed. Focus right at the center of the forehead, right in between the eyebrows. That we call that the third eye. It's also the pituitary gland. And you're going to close the mouth. And now on the inhale, mentally say Sat. And exhale, mentally say Nam. And we'll do that. I'll let you have your own experience for about a minute. Inhale, hold the breath. Focus at your third eye point. Exhale, relax. So of course I thought, I didn't say what Satnam means. And it's actually not that important, believe it or not, because it's more important the experience. This goes back to the difference between the age of information and the age of experience. So, but it does mean truth is my identity. It means I am truth. I am not, these things that are carrying me away from myself. So basically it means I am self.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I definitely felt myself sink in. I felt all my, all my cues of self energy, the softness in my face, my body feels more relaxed. Like I felt that immediately, like all those markers that I'm in self, I could feel that in my body.
That's amazing. Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
really,
and can I just say one more thing? Yeah,
of
about that
course.
is
Yeah.
the difference between something like this and something like mindfulness meditation is that this brings you to a mindful state just much quicker, and it doesn't let you off the hook. So the mind might wander away from the mantra, but it's easier to kind of, it's more of a hook. It's easier, it's busier, but that's a good thing.
Is there something about I've heard, I might be making this up. Is there something about like the vibration of saying, is this like a Sanskrit word or something like that?
Yeah,
Or,
it's similar, but it's different. It's Gurmukhi. So
okay.
in Kundalini, we use some Sanskrit, but mostly we use Gurmukhi. It's another sacred language, very appropriate for these times, for the Aquarian age. So that's why they're very effective for us right now. For the
And
next thousands of years, these will be very effective mantras.
is that how long the age goes? This is a stupid question, but
Yeah,
like, is
no,
it
it's not
like,
a stupid question. It's
okay.
totally not. And this is something that like I feel like I'm always asking my teachers. I think it is probably at least 2,000 years. So
Wow, that's
we're heading into
crazy.
light. We're heading into expansion, into consciousness, into light. The young children that are being born right now have different brains, and they're more aware and they're more conscious. And each generation is going to be more and more conscious. So eventually, and what's really predicted is that these practices will be used in the medical science.
Wow. Well, that's already
Yeah,
started with a mindfulness meditation that's become
exactly.
popular, right? It's like,
Yes.
okay, so this was my last question. Is there significance to saying Sat Nam instead of I am truth?
Yeah, you could do both. You definitely could do both, actually, and experiment for yourself and see what's better.
Yeah.
Satnam is it's like a sound code vibration that sends the signal to the conscious brain, either mentally. Now, if you're really desperate, say it out loud. And that's the whole thing. I think if you're really interested in this, listeners, just go on to the Aquarian Counseling YouTube channel, because you will hear, or go to my website, because eventually I'm going to have membership portals for therapists where we're going to have like groups, and we're going to be able to learn and support each other, and you'll be able to actually dive deep. So if that's something that you're interested in, obviously go to my website, and obviously be in touch. But yeah, that you access, we should talk, if anyone's interested in like what's the difference between an affirmation and a mantra. Yeah, and also that's all in my book that will come out too. Yeah. Yeah.
I love it. Oh my gosh. I feel like this is just a big tease. I feel like I just want more. I want your book. I want
Yay!
your YouTube. I'm like, you are mean. This
Yay!
is
I'm
just
so
a big
glad.
tease.
But that's so good. That's so time this comes out, this podcast comes out, you guys you'll be able to go onto, my website and the YouTube channel. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Natalia. This was perfect. I love talking
Yay.
to you.
I love talking to you, Tammy.
Thanks for hanging out today. If you liked this episode, make sure you subscribe. And if you really like this episode, share it with a friend and leave a review. You can follow me on Instagram at IFS Tammy and join our community on Facebook at the One Inside Podcast. Talk to you next time. This week's podcast is sponsored by Brighter Vision. What's the point of having a beautiful website if it doesn't attract the clients you want to see? As the worldwide leaders of website design for therapists, Brighter Vision sees this issue happen way too often. a nice looking website doesn't equate to a successful website. The truth is, your current website might even be turning off potential clients. That's where Brighter Vision comes in. Brighter Vision's team of website designers will create a website that is centered around attracting and retaining your ideal client so that you can have a nice looking website as well as a successful one. Better yet, Brighter Vision is offering $100 off exclusively for listeners of the One Inside podcast. To take advantage of this offer, simply go to brightervision.com/inside. Again, that's brightervision.com/inside. You can find that link in the show notes.